We're going to focus our attention on the design of professional development. I don't know if sessions is the right word, opportunities, but however we deliver our professional development, there's some level of thought needs to go into the individual modules or nodes. And so I thought, when beginning to design a professional development session, what do you think about first?
So that's a great question, to be honest. And just maybe before we dig into that, you said there professional development session or opportunity, and so often professional development it needs to be sustained over time. So there is something in mind when you're planning a session. Does this fit as a piece in a bigger sort of trajectory or a bigger PD sort of journey? But if we're thinking about just a sort of standalone session, then I think the first thing is, am I clear on the problem here that we're trying to solve? And what is it that has drawn these teachers or has sort of necessitated this PD session with this particular topic? So I need to think about what is this problem, and it has to be kind of grounded in the teachers. I try and focus all my PD on the teachers that are in the classroom that are dealing with all the tricky factors and variables that are going on in the classroom all the time. So I'm thinking about what is the current problem we're trying to solve, and that could be things like lack of participation from students, maybe, or students not remembering things, poor retention, that sort of thing. And I think we want to then consider, what's the teacher's current state now. This is going to be different for everybody, but in some ways this is like problem solving in maths. What's the current state, what's the goal state, and then we start thinking about how are we going to sort of help those teachers structure their practice towards solving the problem. And so the tools and the stepping stones, I'm then starting thinking, what strategies have I used, what techniques have I discovered, and particularly what research exists that we can then start to sort of weave in to that PD.
Do you have a model that you use to scaffold your session design?
I definitely do. And again, we're sort of looking back to best part of 20 years in the classroom and lots of badly planned, poorly planned, or not at all planned lessons. And then you do find a bit of a structure that fits for you. And I'm not saying this is one size fits all at all, but I think over the years of delivering PD to different groups, I've kind of at the moment settled on something that feels like it works quite well. So if I'm going to be designing a session, then I need to build in something at the beginning that's going to help me get the sense of where the teachers are and their level of understanding. So just as we talked about there, some sort of define a term or explain what this looks like in your classroom, because I want to just get their, activate some prior knowledge, essentially, give them a chance to just sort of frame this session in their own context, which is so important. And then I think, you've got to kind of really outline that problem. So having listened to what they've said, then sort of take charge, give a summary, outline that problem, talk about the pain points, basically, paint the sort of reality of it and get everybody thinking, this sounds like, things I've struggled with. This is a challenge. It's good to know everybody's, struggling with these challenges. And then that's where we open the door and say, well, these are the things that are going to help us move towards solving this problem. So I would, I would always try, certainly now, to break the session into maybe 3 or 4 kind of key principles, like key kind of generic, not strategies, but ideas, because I want it to be at a high level so that teachers of geography and history and science and all of the other subjects, and whether you're kindergarten or if you're top of secondary school, whatever that is, I want these principles to be broad enough that people can relate to them and can start thinking about how they can apply it in their context.
What do you think the keys to effective professional development design might be?
It's a bit like a curriculum, actually, isn't it? You want to make sure that you're clear, that you've got a clear aim, probably there's not too much in there, so you're not trying to achieve too much, and that there's a structure. So the structure can be transferable regardless of the kind of theme of the PD. So get that aim kind of locked in, have that structure however you want it to be. Like I've suggested, maybe pepper it with opportunities for discussion or activities, and get the balance right between research and practical. But definitely, bring in that research and give the links or give the study title, the titles of the papers and the researchers to the group. And if people want to read more, they can read more. But I think that this is important, is that we're not trying to encourage teachers to use strategies and techniques and approaches that we haven't actually tried ourselves. This is something that's so important to me, is that, going back to your point that you made there about maybe mistakes and things that you might have done differently in the past, I feel very, very confident when I'm discussing PD and approaches, strategies and techniques, because I've done them and I've seen them work. And if I haven't actually done it myself, I've seen it working in a different context with other teachers. So that, for me, gives a huge amount of confidence, and I hope that projects, in terms of I appear kind of credible when I'm talking from my own experience. As I said, best part of 20 years teaching, and spent a lot of time in other lessons as well. So the keys are to definitely have the research, classroom tested ideas. I think we need tasks and activities, and then think about the follow-up, because although we might enjoy a 45, a 60, a 90-minute PD, what is going to happen as a result? And so the challenge is always to talk to the teachers and say, now, what are you going to commit to? And maybe if you can talk to senior leadership and say, just, one thing, what are you going to look out for? What are you going to recap on at the staff meeting? So structure, research, plenty of tasks grounded in experience, and then think about how it can become sustained.